Much love, everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Woman of the Womb, and today I am going to be giving you some tips on how to manage a natural birth. But before we jump into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so that you can be notified when we drop new videos. If you're planning for an unassisted home birth, then make sure you get a copy of my unassisted birth guidebook in the description below. I've also included a link to my Amazon storefront so that you can get all of the products that I mentioned in this video or any of the videos on my channel. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get into those natural birth tips. The first thing that I want to mention is that preparing for a natural birth or a birth without medical interventions or medications, pain medications, is that it's not just about the physical preparation. It's also about the mental, emotional, and spiritual preparation as well. So the tips that I'm going to be sharing with you today come from the different things that I have implemented in the last 3 of my natural births and what I learned from my first birth and what I use from that first birth going forward to help me with the next 2. So one of the first things that I want to touch on is the inner preparation, the emotional and the spiritual preparation, because one of the things that is not talked about is how much of a spiritual journey and transformation it is just to be pregnant, and how much can come up during that time. So I like to say that pregnancy is one of the ultimate initiations into what I like to call shadow work, right? It is one of the ultimate initiations into digging into any sort of emotional traumas or sexual traumas or childhood traumas that have manifested in your life. And so as you go through pregnancy and even into labor, some of these things can come up. Some of these things can create fears. Some of these things can create energetic blockages within your body, so that when it comes time to deliver your baby, when it comes time to push, once these things start to arise, or if you have not necessarily processed or dealt with these things, it can create all sorts of fear, tension, stress, anything like that within your body during that time of labor. And the thing about stress and fear during labor is that it also has a very physiological effect on your body, right? So when these emotions are triggered within you, it also triggers the release of adrenaline, cortisol, all of these different hormones that can block the flow of oxygen, that can cause your muscles to tense up, that can cause labor to stall or progress very slowly, which can lead to other complications. So that is one thing that I had to be very aware of going into my second pregnancy, and especially my third, and doing the work to address some of those traumas and experiences that I was carrying, especially from my own birth or from the pregnancy journey that my mom had with me. So there's a lot of work that has to go on with that inner healing, right? I'm not going to spend too long touching on that because I feel like that is a entire video and subject within itself, but I do have a book, the Shadow Work Workbook, which really goes in depth with that. So if you want to get a copy of that book, make sure you check that out. Go to our website, www.themeditationfamily.com, and you can get a copy of that book, the physical copy or the ebook. That leads me into the next tip that I have, which is the mental preparation or the mental emotional support that you're going to need during your labor. So of course, the most important thing that you can have around you to support you through a natural birth is a supportive team, people around you who are going to be supportive of your wishes, and people around you who are going to make you feel safe and supported in your journey overall. So if you have family members who want to be there but you don't necessarily get along with them, or you know that they bring added stress, or you know that they are high stress or high strung and the birthing environment is not necessarily going to be suitable for them, then you may not want to have them in your space. When you're giving birth, you want to feel relaxed, you want to feel comfortable, you want to feel at ease within your space so that your body can be free to do what it naturally does, so that it can be free to do what it's supposed to do. This all goes back to what I said about when you're stressed or when you're tense, the reaction, the physical reaction that your body actually has to those emotions. So if you have people around you, or you are in a birthing space that is stressful, this can lead to other complications, or it can lead to unnecessary pain that can block you from having the natural labor that you want to have. Another thing that I did for my labor was I created birth cards with affirmations that I could hang around my room, that I could hang up around my birthing pool, and that was very helpful to me. I remember during my second pregnancy getting to a point in labor, which is something that is very common. You will probably hear many mamas say this, but there is a point in your labor where you may get to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this, I can't go any further, and you may have some negative self-talk going on in there. And that is something that you really want to avoid, because again, as soon as you say these things, or as soon as you think these things, your body responds to the signals that your brain is sending, and this can create blockages that can stall your labor and things like that. So during my second pregnancy, I remember a very specific moment where, as I was pushing and the baby was crowning, I literally said out loud, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And as soon as I said it, literally my baby just stopped and froze right there in place. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was so amazed at how instant that reaction was. And so then as soon as I said that, I corrected myself and I said, no, I can do this. I took a deep breath, and as soon as I did that, things got moving again. So it just goes to show the power of your thoughts and the power of your words while you're giving birth. And so sometimes you need that, not sometimes, but you definitely need that added support. And so sometimes your laboring people, or especially if you don't have a doula who is familiar with these things, you're gonna want to make sure that you have something there that reminds you of your strength and of your power and of your ability to make it through this birth, right? So I had my affirmation cards hanging up that said things like, I trust in my body's ability to give birth. I carry the strength of all of the women who came before me, and things like that. So when I got to those points in my labor where I just felt like, oh my goodness, I can't do this, I was able to look up at my cards, and it gave me that added confirmation that I needed. Now, these next few tips are purely for the physical component of labor and natural birth. So my very first tip, which I did not know during my first pregnancy and labor, is to make sure that in early labor you are getting rest. If this is your first birth, or any birth really, it's very natural to be very excited when you realize that you are first in labor. And so usually when that happens, you know, you're really excited and you're like, oh my goodness, this baby's gonna be here soon. I can't wait to meet them. I've been pregnant all this time. But you really wanna make sure that while you're having those early contractions, and as long as they are not super painful, if you can rest through them, make sure you get some rest, take a nap, hydrate, eat some energizing foods, because once you get to active labor, your body is going to need as much energy as it possibly can in order to push baby out. And you don't really know how long you're going to be in labor. Labor can be anywhere from a couple of hours to a whole day, or it might last a couple of days. So like I said, it's very easy to get excited when you realize, oh, my water broke, or my contraction started, or labor is finally beginning. But you want to pace yourself and make sure that you're getting that rest so that you have as much energy as you can possibly have later on during active labor. This, of course, leads me into my next tip, which is to have some essential oils handy. There are a number of different essential oils that you can use for your birth, but some of the ones that I recommend are eucalyptus, peppermint oil, orange oil, and lavender. These particular oils are really good for boosting your energy. So just as I said, sometimes as you get into active labor, you can find yourself getting tired, or you may find yourself getting a little bit exhausted. So these essential oils can help boost your energy levels to help you get through those final moments. Essential oils such as peppermint or eucalyptus can even help to ease with nausea. So if you're experiencing nausea during your pregnancy, using those two essential oils is very good for helping to alleviate some of those symptoms. Orange oil is a great mood booster, and so is lavender. So if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, those are great essential oils to use just to rebalance and recalibrate your energy. Now, when you're using essential oils, it's very important to remember that you probably don't want to put them in a diffuser and have the scents, all in the air, because once the baby gets here, they are going to be very sensitive to those scents, and you don't want those to overwhelm them. So the best thing to do is to either use cotton swabs and like the little cotton balls, and put a couple of drops of essential oils on those, or you can use a washcloth, add some drops to some water, put the washcloth in the water, or you can just add the drops of essential oil straight to the washcloth, and then you can place it over your head. You can, place it up to your nose just to get a whiff of those scents and help to, boost your energy or deal with that nausea or whatever it is, whatever symptom it is that you are dealing with during your labor. My next tip is to have very peaceful music, more specifically meditation, sound healing frequencies playing in your background. I did this with all three of my labors, with all three of my pregnancies, and this was very helpful to just set the mood, set the tone. It gave me something to focus on, but also those sound healing frequencies are just very good for aligning the energies within your body, helping to alleviate pain, helping to reduce stress and things like that. Which also goes along with my next tip, using meditation or sound chants. So in our journey of teaching meditation and sound healing, we often speak about the energy centers of the body, which are also known as chakras. And every chakra in the body has a specific sound vibration that goes along with it. So the specific sounds that you will want to focus on are the sound chants ooh, and oh, because those resonate with the bottom three chakras, your root, your sacral, and your solar plexus. And those three chakras are obviously the ones that are going to be the most activated during the time that you're giving birth. So those three sounds are going to be very helpful when you're dealing with your contractions and helping to ride those waves and ride through those surges that you're feeling. It's also a lot better to use those chanting sounds because you can focus on your breath and on your breathing while you're doing it. And it also helps you so that you don't expend as much energy as you would if you were, shouting or screaming during your labor. And of course, sometimes there are certain moments in labor where you may feel the need to growl, or you may feel the need to give a loud because that primal instinct and that urge can come up for you. But you don't want to be doing that throughout your entire labor, because like I said, this can cause you to use up more of your energy than you actually need to. So doing those chants is very helpful throughout your contractions. Another tip is to have a stress ball or even a wide tooth comb that you can use, to squeeze in the palm of your hand. That is extremely helpful when you're dealing with your contractions as well. I remember during my second labor, I needed something to just squeeze or bear down on, and I actually ended up biting my husband on the shoulder because I didn't have anything like that, and I just needed something to help alleviate that tension in my body. So it would have been very helpful during that labor if I had something that I could squeeze or something like that. So a stress ball or having a wide tooth comb that you can just have that pressure in your palms as you're riding through those contractions is going to be very helpful to you. Another thing that will be very helpful for you during your natural labor, and perhaps one of the most important things, are your labor positions. Now, we have been conditioned by movies and TV and just the hospital experience in general that when you give birth, you have to be laying on your back in the bed. Now, for some people, this may be very comfortable. It may be very easy for them to give birth that way. But if you just think about how the body operates and how everything functions, it's a lot harder for your hips and your pelvis and your sacral bones and all of that to open up and to expand so that the baby can descend through the birth canal, and you're able to easily push them out. So labor positions where you're able to either be on your hands and knees, labor positions where you can squat, or labor positions where you are just able to get off of your back, get that pressure off of your back and allow your hips and your pelvic bone to open up are going to be really helpful. Hands and knees is a very good position, especially if you are having a back labor where you are experiencing most of your contractions and pains in your back and you want to alleviate some of that pressure. Another thing that can be very helpful for you during a natural labor is water. So you can either opt for, an all-out water birth where you have your pool and you can get in the water and submerge your body. You could even use your bathtub if it's big enough. If you're able to get the water high enough, you can get in there. That can help alleviate some contractions or help to ease the intensity of your contractions. Or just getting in the shower while you're laboring. Even if you don't want to deliver in the water or you don't want to have a full water birth, like I said, you can hop in the shower, you can soak in the tub during your early labor, and then when you're ready to get out and you're ready to push, then you can do that as well. So there's a lot of different variations to how you want to go about implementing water into your birth, but it's a very helpful tool that you can use to ease your contractions. My next tip is very helpful if you have someone there supporting you during your labor, and this is having them to apply counter pressure to your back, specifically your lower back, especially as you are pushing. So if you check out our unassisted birth video, you'll notice that during my pushing stages or towards the end of my labor, I did have my husband there to apply both of his hands and apply that pressure to my lower back or to squeeze my hips. And that was very helpful to me as the baby was crowning, as the baby was descending, because it just helped to ease some of that tension that was there in my lower back and that was there in my hips as I was pushing. Speaking of your baby crowning, this may be a term that you hear very often throughout your pregnancy, or you may hear in your childbirthing classes or from your doctor or midwife. But this is something that is called the ring of fire. And really what that is once you get to the point where you're pushing and your baby starts crowning and the top of their head, finally starts to emerge, there is a second there where your vagina starts to stretch, and this can create a tingling or burning sensation due to that stretching. And so that is probably the most intense part of the actual pushing stage, because once the head comes out, the body just usually kind of naturally flows right after that, and you immediately feel that release. But during that time that the baby is crowning and you're feeling that ring of fire, you want to go ahead and put your hands down there and touch your baby's head. I know for some people this can be intimidating, especially because most of us have never been told to do this before. A lot of times we just have the doctor to catch our baby. But if you do this, if you take your hand and touch your baby's head or guide your baby's head out, right? Just hold your baby's head the entire time they are crowning and while you're pushing the head out. This, as soon as you touch your baby's head, right? This is the first time you've made physical contact with them throughout your entire pregnancy. So this automatically releases a rush of hormones throughout your body, specifically the hormone oxytocin, right? The feel-good hormone. So as soon as that oxytocin is released, it creates that sense of pleasure. It helps to alleviate more of the stress within your body. It helps you to remember to loosen up your muscles so that the rest of the baby can descend very easily. It helps make that time feel like it's going by much faster, right? That time that you are pushing the baby's head out, it makes it feel like it's going by much faster because you're focusing more on the presence of your baby and on the fact that they're gonna be here within moments, rather than focusing on the actual contractions or the actual feeling of the stretching that's happening during that time. And one of my very last tips is waiting for the fetal ejection reflex to kick in. This is probably another term that we don't hear often enough, especially from our doctors or practitioners when it comes to giving birth. Usually we just think, okay, once I hit 10 centimeters, boom, I'm ready to start pushing, or your doctor will say, okay, I want you to start pushing now. But oftentimes this can result in pushing prematurely when your body and your baby are not necessarily ready to. And of course, when you start pushing too early, if your body or your baby aren't ready, then this can make it very easy for a practitioner to say, okay, well, labor is not progressing as it should, or you've been pushing for too long and nothing is happening. Let's do some other type of intervention that you may not necessarily want or need. Your body knows exactly what it needs to do and what it's supposed to do when it comes to pushing your baby out, right? Like, your baby's obviously not gonna stay in there forever, but there is something that is called the fetal ejection reflex. And that is something that when you feel it, there's nothing that you can really do to stop it, right? There's gonna come a point in your labor where you feel this uncontrollable urge where you need to poop. And the difference between that and a normal poop is that, usually if you're going poop, you can usually stop it, or you can usually hold it, right, until you get to the bathroom or something like that. But with the fetal ejection reflex, it is something that your body does autonomously. So once that kicks in, you can't really stop it. Your body is naturally going to bear down. It's naturally going to start pushing that baby out on its own. So you want to wait for that to kick in. You want to wait until you feel that sensation, and you want to go along with it. As soon as you feel it, sometimes your natural reaction may be to fight against it, or it may be to tense up, but that is a moment where you want to breathe and you want to lean in to the contraction or the sensation as much as you can and allow it to kind of take over you and wash over you, right? If you focus on your breath, if you take deep breaths during that moment, it's going to feel a lot more bearable than if you try to fight against it. But once that fetal ejection reflex kicks in, your body is going to naturally start to push your baby out. And if you allow your body to do that, not only is it going to make it easier for you to deal with those contractions, it's also going to help prevent issues such as tearing. And I know that is something that a lot of people are afraid of when it comes to natural birth or just birthing in general. But one of the most common reasons for tearing is pushing before your body is actually ready. So if you wait for that fetal ejection reflex to kick in, then you can help to prevent that issue from occurring. So those are all of my tips for helping to prepare and make it through a natural unmedicated birth, whether your birth is unassisted, in the hospital, at a birthing center, or however, wherever it is that you choose to birth. If you have had a natural birth and you have some other tips that you want to share, make sure you leave those down in the comments below. Also, make sure to subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon so that you can be notified each time we drop a new video. If there is a specific topic that you want me to touch on or share with you all, leave that down in the comments below as well. And last but not least, make sure you subscribe to our family Patreon, patreon.com/themeditationfamily, where we share more on all of our lifestyle. We share more on meditation, sound healing, spiritual guidance, all of those amazing things you can find on our Patreon at patreon.com/themeditationvideo. Until next time, much love.